Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I appreciate you being here. Today I have a great interview with Kecia. Kecia Denevey is a published mixed media artist, instructor, and world traveler living at New Jersey Shore. As a mixed media artist, her eclectic style can be seen in fabric and textiles, jewelry design, sculpture work, and painting. Creating is pivotal to Kecia and became for her art therapy. Her imagination comes to life and allows her temporary reprieve from her role as a full-time caregiver of her adult son, Tucker. I had a great interview with Kecia. I think there are moments you're gonna feel sometimes what mothers of special needs children caregivers feel. Sometimes the weight is a lot, and sometimes there is heaviness, and sometimes there is sadness. But what I took from this interview, and I think Kecia was so open, but at the end, I think the message was that this work helps you. This work keeps us going. This work that we do maintain our sanity. Everything that we do with our hands is healing. And I think more than ever, this is what we can take from this podcast. I hope you enjoy, and I hope we all can have open minds and listen with, a touch of empathy and good heart, and that we can all learn something. And I hope that motivates you to keep creating despite anything and everything. So also, don't forget that you can support this podcast with Patreon. We have a Patreon where you can see also the video of this podcast and many other goods that I have for you, and exclusive videos of me painting full-time in real time, and all other goodies, inclusive real paintings and prints for you. So we would love to have a community there to talk about these topics in a more deeper level. So head over to Patreon, and I'm going to put the links on the show notes. And here's Kecia.
Welcome to the Artistically You podcast, where mixed media art is a place for all. Here, we are going to talk about art as a mindful practice, connect with our creativity, and embrace curiosity. This is your host, mixed media artist, Jana Oliveira.
Okay. Kecia, welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And tell people where you talking from with me.
I live at the Jersey Shore in New Jersey.
Yay!
My town is actually called Wall Township, but it is at the Jersey Shore. I'm about 7 miles from the beach.
Yeah, and I was I forgot to tell you this before we started recording, but I was a Central Jersey girl.
Oh, wow.
And,
where at?
yeah, I lived in Princeton. And,
oh, okay.
My son was born there, so he's what we call Princeton baby. Yeah, because
That's
over
really
there, when you go to the hospital and the papers that they give you, they put Princeton baby.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, that's cute. So I have New Jersey in my heart. I loved all the years that I lived there. It has a special place. I have many friends there, and in the PA area as well. So I just love. But I was just a little tired of the cold.
Yeah. So where are you at now?
Well, right now I'm in Florida, but
Okay.
after New Jersey, we moved to Washington State and Seattle area.
Okay. I used to live in Kirkland. I lived in Kirkland for a while.
Yeah, but I didn't adapt really well, and I didn't want to go back to New Jersey because of the cold, because by that time I lived 16 years in the cold.
Yeah.
And I was a resident of Florida before, so I
Okay.
just want to come back to the sun.
Okay. I don't blame you.
Yeah, and because of my son as well. He's just obsessed with everything that has to do with water. So,
Yeah.
Kecia, tell a little bit about what you do, because I'm going to have your IG and everything here for people in the notes, and I'm going to show here your IG handle, which is Kecia Denevey, right? Is that how you say it?
Yep.
And Instagram, but I'll have that on the show notes and also on the blog post.
Okay.
But tell people what kind of artist are you?
Okay. I am a mixed media artist. I'm also an instructor. I do a lot of different art, like you and I talked about before. Um, I dabble in sewing, and I make dolls and purses, and I upcycle clothing. I paint.
Yes.
I used to do a lot of jewelry, not so much anymore. I work with clay. Um, I like to make assemblages. And recently I started to learn how to weave on a loom. So I keep
Ooh.
myself busy.
So you are very attracted to fabric. I see that in your IG a lot. I love
Yes.
fabric as well. I
Yeah.
just love it.
Yeah. I'm really into texture in my art.
And so I
So
think you are the true word of mixed media artist.
yes.
Because
I would say
sometimes,
so.
yeah, because sometimes they say, okay, I'm a mixed media artist, but you kind of can see what I like. I like kind of towards the same things, which is are or abstracts or flowers, but you kind of delve in everything. But I have to say, in my moving when we came here, I gave a lot of things because moving state by state is very expensive. So
Right.
I sold a lot
Right.
of things and gave a lot of things, and I decided to sell my sewing machine.
Yes.
And but I have to say I love fabric, and I
Yeah.
always had this dream that I would learn how to sew clothing, but it never really
Yeah.
worked. It's really actually hard to find classes, local classes for to learn how to sew clothing.
Yeah. There, there's a store that just opened up near me, and she has all kinds of sewing classes, and she's
Oh, that
really
is
bringing
rare.
it back. Yeah, making
Yeah.
purses, making how to make like a tunic.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
lots of fun stuff happening at her shop.
Yeah.
I think the pandemic,
Yeah.
I heard that a lot of people started to get back into sewing,
Yeah.
and younger women started sewing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
And also like I went to sew a lot of bags and little bags, pouches and stuff because they were easier
Hmm.
as a beginner like me that can just read something on the internet and read a pattern and know how to do it.
Right.
Um, but I would like so much to do like more difficult bags and things like that, but I don't know how to do
Yeah.
patterns really well. So I
Yeah.
always
Me
have
neither.
that
Me
I have that
neither.
I always have that love for fabric. So but I started doing at that time when I had my sewing machine was to use fabrics for my art journal covers and on my art
Uh-huh.
journal. So I have art journals that I sew fabric on the end of the pages, so they have
Hmm.
all this end of the pages with fabric. I love so much the texture that it brings, especially
Hmm.
when you
Hmm.
mix, like you have things in acrylics and then you have fabric. It just gives that extra something. I don't know what it is.
Right. Right. It's
And
not so
I,
flat. It's a little dimensional that
Exactly,
way.
yeah. And especially when you buy, like, I would buy on Etsy this vintage fabric. I don't know if they were vintage really, but they were for sure vintage looking.
Right.
And I love, because I mean, Etsy is great for that. If you need to find patterns or specific patterns or more kind of vintage look fabrics,
Right.
and also modern fabrics as well. Because they would sell in quarters, it would be better to do small projects and things like that.
Yeah.
So I love that. And uh, I found you from Natalie Kovac, which I think by the time your podcast is live, we're going to have released her podcast. She's a mixed media as well. And as we were talking and in the podcast, and she told me, no, I know a great artist. And like you, she has a special needs son. So I thought I would bring you today to talk about art, to talk what art brings to you in your life. But I think we have that thing in common that people are not aware and people sometimes don't talk a lot. And
Right.
what it takes for us to be our artists and having that other life, right, that we
Right.
have. And one thing that I say to people is that when they're guests, I cannot say when your podcast is going to be live because I go as it flows. I edit everything myself, and having a special needs son, this life. You have to take to therapies. You have to take to that. You have to take to that. And I don't have that much of a free time as people may
Right.
think. So it's, sometimes like yesterday, I spend most of my morning solving issues, some issues that are happening in school. You probably know this life. And talking with a friend that is a BCBA to kind of brainstorm with her what I've been thinking. Am I wrong? Am I like, So, things happens and you have to stop everything. And I was scanning IEPs, like 50 pages of IEPs. So things, details that people don't know that we have to deal with. Right. IEP meetings and meetings with all kinds of therapists. And I think that it's so good to talk with someone that understands a little of that, because I think that is such a crucial part of our art. Of not just our life, but our art, what art means to us, what art brings to us, but also I believe what we create. Because my son, and you can talk about your perspective, but my son, when he was diagnosed, it's been the life that we've been having. It helped me so much to see things in a different way. And I think I was very close-minded for some things. And I think that I was not thinking about some things that going on. And sometimes when you're in that position, that sometimes you get looked at, or you get talked at, or you get, then you realize that we need to be more open-minded and more inclusive. And I think that's what he brought to me. He brought to me also the idea is a simple idea, but it's just that you have to do what makes you happy, because he doesn't care. He likes what he likes.
Yeah.
And I have people say, well, this is not age appropriate. And I'm like, is he happy? If he's happy, that's what I want for him. I want him to be happy, comfortable, right? Healthy. But if he makes him happy, I don't care if it's age appropriate or not. And I think that freedom is what I envy on him, on his mindset, right? So tell us a little bit about your journey and how is that being for you, influencing your art?
Okay. So my son Tucker, I have a picture of him here that I thought I'd show.
And we have that Tucker on, people can see him on your IG. There we go.
Yeah. There we go. So that's Tucker. When Tucker was 18 months old, he suffered a severe brain injury, and it was due to medical malpractice. I was, that was my first baby. I was raising my baby, and then this very traumatic thing happened to us. And so he's 32 now. He just turned 32 a couple days ago.
Wow.
And so a lot of my journey involves sorrow and grief for what happened.
Yeah.
And that translates over into my art. People tell me that they can, especially when I'm doing paintings or journaling, they can really, really see the sadness that lingers in the background of my mind. But at the same time, I have to live and carry on every day. He requires 24/7 care. Someone has to always be watching him. He's in a wheelchair. He's nonverbal. He's fed by a G-tube. He's cortically blind, but he can hear. And then he wears diapers. So, he's a lot of work.
Did he always needed a tube since that happened to him to feed himself, or that was recently?
After his injury, he had to have a tube.
Wow, all these years.
Yes, all these years. Yes.
Wow.
I'm very limited, like you were talking about your time. I'm very limited on my time. Even though I do make a lot of art, I only make it in this short amount of time that I do have available. And usually Tucker is in the room with me in my studio when I'm doing this. Once he's in his wheelchair, I can feed him in his wheelchair. He does require suctioning occasionally. So then I can, there's things that I can do while he's in his chair. We play music or we put movies on, and
Uh-huh.
so he's always in the evening or in the the mornings. He could be in here with me while I'm creating, and even though he's nonverbal, I chat away to him like we're having a conversation, and
So,
so
and you are so prolific, at least on your IG. You do so many kinds of things. How did it started this love for you doing all this kind of things?
one of the problems with me personally is that I get bored very easily.
Yes, me too.
So when I get, to the point where, say, maybe I'm in a painting phase, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, I got to stop painting for a little bit, and I'm ready to start doing some sewing. It was kind of like that. It just sort of evolved into that's just how I am. I get bored very easily. But a lot of my different techniques translate into each other. So maybe I make a clay sculpture doll, but then I go into my hand sewing and get out my sewing machine and get
Right.
some fabrics out, and I make her a dress. So there's a lot of crossing of art going on at the same time.
So, you started this when that happened to him. You were already creating. You were already a creator, an artist.
I was creating, but not like I am now. That mainly started when we moved to New Jersey, which was 1995.
Oh, wow.
And I have two boys, and they were both young, and they weren't in school yet. And I didn't know anyone in New Jersey except for my mother-in-law. And so I needed something to do. It was winter, and so I just started doing mixed media stuff. And at the time, I didn't even know that it was called mixed media. I didn't really know
Yes.
what I was doing. All I know is I was just occupying my time and trying to do something constructive. I was kind of raised in an environment where you stay busy, and
Yeah.
then I started to find out that there was classes that you could actually take in this sort of stuff. And then that's where it really picked up. I started taking classes and really kind of honing in on my craft and my skill. And then I decided that I'd rather be teaching stuff instead of just taking classes. And then so I got into teaching as well, and traveling while I was teaching. So yeah, I would say that the main part of it started when I moved to New Jersey.
So, how do you think that this art that you were creating helped you in the very beginning of very hard times when that happened to him?
Well, it definitely was a big distraction for me. And they say, art therapy. I mean, that's a whole field in itself, art therapy. So, or art saves. And so it definitely, took me out of having this idleness and nothing to do into being creative and really tapping into my creativity and not knowing what was there and allowing it to evolve and kind of push a lot of that grief down, though. Is kind of, we could say it was a little bit of denial. When you're trying to escape into some sort of form, it is a form of denial. And but it really helped me cope. And it was my drug of choice, so to speak.
Yeah. I think people don't realize, and in the beginning, when my son got diagnosed, my son is autistic, and my son had many issues. My son could not eat solid food. He had issues, even as a newborn, he had issues of reflux, even with breastfeeding. So he had to take meds, which is very common now. We know about autistic newborns. And they have all these IG issues and digestion issues. It's very common in the autism community. But of course, I didn't know that, right? I didn't know he was autistic.
Right.
And so it was a lot of struggle. He was, as an infant, crying nonstop. And like you can see, he was in pain. He would make that face of pain. And you, as a new mom, you don't know what's going on. But I think what people don't realize is that we have to go through a process of grieving. And one time I said that to a person, and she said, well, what do you mean? Your son didn't die? I said, well, my son physically didn't die, but the person that maybe I thought he would be died.
Right.
Right? Because this is something that I learned today, and I know this is hard, that as young moms, sometimes I think we think a lot of things. And we should not expect these things. And, you know, you have to learn to go through that grieving wheel.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
And some parents, unfortunately, they are stuck on the wheel, especially on the denial or anger. You know, there is some specific stages of the wheel. But I was very privileged that when he was doing early intervention, one of the therapists, she saw that I was really like crying, like really like, I was actually really worried about him. And she said, you know, we don't tell that a lot because we don't have many, but we have social workers in our team. But we cannot provide for everyone. But I feel that you are so distraught, like you need help. You are working so hard. You are here watching and learning and doing everything. And, you know, I can talk to them and they can call you if you would like. And I said, absolutely.
That's nice.
Yeah. And I think that person helped me tremendously and changed the way I saw things. Yeah. And from that point on, things started becoming easier for me in terms of my mental health.
Well, it's overwhelming. I mean, taking care of someone, being so responsible for another individual is very overwhelming, you know?
Yeah. And at that time, as I said, I was a scrapbooker, and I was actually teaching also in that time that nobody knew about what live stream was. I was doing live streams at Ustream, which YouTube was not even a thing at that time. It was like forever ago, right? When YouTube, when you say YouTube was not even on, you know, okay, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
I was creating these classes, and what I thought was that to me, what gave to me at that time, it was like because, you know, you get so tired and overwhelmed with everything that you are doing, that to me was kind of a release. At that moment that I was teaching or doing a scrapbook page, I didn't think about anything.
Yeah.
And I could kind of recharge, even though I was doing a night and I was tired, you know, when you have a baby and it's like, I was feeling very tired, but I was like, I felt so energized afterwards.
Yeah. Recharge, that's a really good word to use.
Yeah.
It's definitely how I find getting lost in the zone of creating is definitely a part of the whole process of just coping and, you know, getting through the day.
And when you start, you know, doing your art and do you start teaching, what kind of classes you do?
Oh gosh, I do a lot of classes. I've taught jewelry classes. I've taught soldering. I've taught sewing. I've taught, you know, making dolls.
I delved in soldering as well. I did so many things. I did a little bit of soldering as well. And today, and today on your website, do you do today local classes or online classes?
Right now, online classes only.
Okay. And what kind of classes you have now? Is the same class that you said, like dolls and jewelry?
There's a class on how to make a doll. There's a class. Actually, I have some old classes that need to go up there as well. And then there's a free class on my website on working with this clay that I love called Aves. AV is in Victor, ES, Aves clay. That's what I sculpt with a lot. So there's a little free class on my website on how to use that product.
What kind of sculptures are that? Do you bake them?
No, you let it dry on its
Oh,
own.
it's like an air dry.
Yeah,
Huh.
kind of. Yeah, it's different. It's a two-part product that you mix together, whereas air dry clay is already just one product. This one dries really, really hard, and they use it a lot in assemblage pieces to connect things together. So,
I
and then I
never
have a
heard about
class that,
this one.
oh, okay. Also have a class over at Jean Oliver's website. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah,
her.
yeah.
And we built a doll in that class, and we used that clay, and so that's why I had the free class first, so that people could kind of get an idea of how to use it. And
Oh, I will look for it when I put on the notes. Do you remember the name of the class on the Jean Oliver?
um,
But I can look for.
I don't. I can send it
Okay.
to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm terrible at naming my classes and then remembering what I named
I
them.
know it's hard. It is hard.
But
Do you think your art today still bring the same benefits it brought you in the beginning in your journey with him?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just feel like if I'm not creating, I just don't really know what to do with myself. So it really is a part of my life.
Yeah,
I
I
know
feel the same
people,
thing.
make jokes all the time, like, do you ever sleep? And, and I just don't really do, first of all, I'm not ever leaving the house. As, when you're a caregiver to someone who needs help 24/7, and
Yeah.
he's not in school anymore. And then when the pandemic, where are we going? So how I use my time is to create art. I don't really
Yeah.
know what other people are doing with their time, their idle time. But with all my idle time, I just make art.
Yeah, and I think that today, if you agree, unfortunately, in all kinds of disabilities, there is not a lot of help for us after school, right? They have the right to
Right.
be in school till they are 21 years old. But I think that this help after school is something that we have to.
Yeah.
My son is 12 and I'm already thinking about it because people, oh, it's still a long time. Well, no, time is going fast. I mean, time went like this. Now he's 12 and he's getting bigger than me. And it's like he
Yeah.
was just a baby. It's going
Yeah.
really fast. Like soon he's going
Yeah.
to high school.
Yeah.
And
We
and
have one caregiver. She's been with us for about 22 years.
oh
And
wow.
she comes in the mornings from like 8 to 1.
But
But unfortunately, in the mornings, that's all about chores and laundry and, do the dogs and anything else, like run
but it's
errands.
but it's necessary for you to have the help. It's necessary.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah. She took a week off a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait for her to come
And
back.
you see,
And I
right?
don't mean that. I don't mean that in a mean way about taking care of my child. I just mean that,
No,
you just get really tired and
I
you
don't
need a
think that at
break.
all. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think just
People
people that
just,
are in our positions, and your position is even tougher than mine. It's I can
yeah.
never put myself in your place, and it's like
Yeah.
no, we need.
Yeah.
Um,
So I felt like when she came back, I was like, oh, I just feel like I can breathe again for just a
it's
couple
amazing,
hours. I call
and
it
it's
clocking out. Like I can
yeah,
just clock out for a couple hours. I don't need
yep,
to.
yep,
Someone's watching him. Someone's taking care of all his needs, and
yeah.
I can do what I need to do. And
My son for sure is kind of independent, but we always have to take a look at what he's doing because sometimes,
yeah,
first of all, he doesn't have knowledge of danger.
right.
And second of all, sometimes he gets really agitated. I don't know, something turns on in the brain. And
Hmm.
once he left the house, so I have cameras here
Oh
everywhere, I
gosh.
have sensors everywhere. I think people think, oh, is it dangerous there? No, it's for my son.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
we have to keep a look on him. I'm always like,
Yes.
where is like he asked me this week like to be just on the backyard, and I was worried he would figure it out how to open the fence to go outside,
Yeah.
which he can, but I
Yeah.
have to be there and look what he's doing, right?
Hmm.
So I was kind of trying to cook, but at the same time, is he there? Is he? I'm always like worried. right?
Yes, yes. And that's
So
exhausting.
it is. Yeah.
That's very, very exhausting.
Yeah. Don't you think like, and we were talking about this, and then it's like, no, let me talk when we are recording. In the art world, and even this what we are doing today, I am a podcast addict. I listen to so many podcasts,
Oh, yeah.
art, all kinds of things. But Kecia, I never heard any creator talking about the stuff that inclusive about people that have special needs and are creating. I don't think there's products out there. I don't think there is. No, when I was scrapbooking, I was telling you that I felt really left out. And to this day, you know, we just had all this thing in the mixed media art community about black art and all the things that they need more exposure. But also people that have special needs kids or people with special needs, they don't have that inclusion, I would say, in terms
They're
of
very overlooked. Yes,
Yeah.
they are very overlooked. I had the same feelings that you do. They are very overlooked, you know.
And I think also
Out of sight, out of mind.
yes, and I think also in terms of us creators and artists, I think we feel like I don't know if I should do a page about that, if I'm like, as you said, sad about something with my son or something's going. I think people even feel like, I don't know if people want to hear about my special needs. So like, I have people, you're always talking about your son. Well, it's part of my life.
Yeah, yeah.
It's part of my life.
I felt like that too, in the beginning a little bit, but more so in the way that I didn't want people to pick up on like, oh God, here she comes, because I was really sad or something. And then things just began to shift as they got older, and I have a pretty big following on Facebook, and they just love Tucker. They're always, I don't post pictures of Tucker all the time on Facebook, but I do once in a while, and they're like,
Is
oh
your
my
Facebook
God,
is your Facebook Kecia Denevey as well? I'll put the link there.
I'll
look
yeah,
for
I think
you.
yeah, I can give you the link for that too.
I can find a
But like
website.
for his birthday, I put his picture up for his birthday, and he got so many wishes because he doesn't have his own page. He can't be an active participant. So
Right.
I really feel lucky that I do have if I can call him a fan base or not, I don't know.
Does he
But they are
know?
very
Does he knows
they're
that?
very they're very appreciative of Tucker, and
Aw.
they really do understand the hardships that I go through with worrying or being sad or depressed about it, and but I'm very grateful for that, because there's a lot of kind people out there that have been very kind about it.
Did you do any? Did you have any help in the beginning, like I had with a social worker or a psychologist to help
No,
you? Yeah, that is something that I
no,
think it's so also that people don't have an idea that parents don't receive help,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because
I recently, I guess it was in March. I just got myself so worried for Tucker with this pandemic, this virus.
oh yes, yes. Oh
And
my goodness.
and my husband had an incident where he had a seizure and was in the hospital for 6 days.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I just, after he got back home, I just kind of, I don't want to call it a mental breakdown, but I just
Yeah.
got so panicky, and suddenly I was afraid. I'm like such a strong person, but suddenly I just felt so fearful and panicky and anxiety and depression, and all of it just came just all to the surface. And I just think it was all that trauma that was never addressed. The post-traumatic stress disorder was never addressed about what happened to him.
Yeah.
And I lost a lot of weight. I wasn't eating. I just didn't have an appetite. I didn't even kind of realize that was going on. I just was so lost in my head. And then So all of a sudden, just one day though, it was like a like flipped on again, and I just woke back up, and I just came out of it, and I realized how thin I'd gotten, alarmingly thin. I mean, I alarmed myself, and I talked to my husband because he didn't know what to do about it, and and I just started addressing that, and I did some online therapy with a therapist, and I did some. I think it's called EMDR. It's a special therapy dealing with traumatic stress.
Yeah,
They
I
do it a
heard about
lot
that
with,
one.
yeah, they do a lot with soldiers and coming back from war
Yes.
and stuff. And so I did that, and I have to tell you that was very, very difficult. Oh, it was so difficult. And I started taking like some CBD products. Um, went on an antidepressant, just kind of all the, I had met with my doctor, and he's like, yeah, we really need to make some decisions here about getting you upwards again. And so I'm feeling much better these days.
Great. Great, that's good. I
And
I think we have it's
yeah.
important to recognize that our brain sometimes needs help.
Yes. I definitely fully believe that the catalyst was my husband's seizure, and being taking care of Tucker alone. We didn't have our caregiver then because we
Oh,
were still in lockdown, and it just was very scary. The whole thing was very scary, and I think all that fear just went right back to let's see, Tucker's injury was in 91, so it just took me back to 1991,
yeah.
and I think that's what happened.
And the pandemic for people that have, immune compromise or have this kind of issues is you suddenly have also not just things are closed or whatever, but also your family. You have to be away from your family because you have to preserve the person and the health of the person, right?
Yes.
You
Oh
cannot
yeah.
talk to your friends. You cannot, like, it is hard. Um,
Yeah, there's so many things that I've just said no, I'm still not comfortable doing that, even though we've all been vaccinated, and I just got my booster yesterday, and my
yay.
husband gets his Friday, and then Tucker gets his Monday. Um, we're doing all the things that we can. I am doing the best I can, and that's something I have to keep reminding myself instead of
Yes.
feeling like I need to be doing more, and that's what that panic was like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not
Yeah.
doing enough
Oh,
to
I'm all the time thinking that.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
always thinking
so
that I'm not doing enough.
I have to change that to I
Yeah.
am doing the best I can, and I
Yeah.
know that. And other people know that, and they tell me that, and I need to listen to that.
Yes. But people don't know the amount of guilty sometimes we have. If it's guilty
Oh my
for,
God.
you know,
Ugh.
with my son, it's like, is he having enough therapy? Should I put more? Should I do this more? Or am I not teaching him enough? Am I, is this person, you know, I'm very involved in his education and I let that clear. I have to say, some districts didn't like me a lot, but I say right
Yeah.
away,
I know.
I say right away, like, I'm very involved. My son is my life. And I'm here to make sure. I went back to school to get a degree in childhood psychology and special needs. And if I
Wow.
minor in social work, I, in Washington, became a therapist, or registered behavior therapist from the BCBA board. And I had the Washington State um, license of behavior therapy. So I worked in a high school with kids in the spectrum and in houses. And I wanted to help other parents. But importantly, I want knowledge to be talking with these professionals because people have no idea what the school system does to us.
Oh, yeah.
And so I let them know, like, I respect so much your job. I went back to school, but I didn't want to be a special needs teacher because I know the paperwork and the job it takes and the crap you have to hear and the pressure. But at the same time, I'm here to make sure my son has what he deserves to have
Yes.
and what is appropriate for him, right?
Yeah.
So I always say, don't take it personal. Although some teachers didn't listen to me, they took it personal. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm doing what it is my job. This is my job, right? Our job is to take care of these individuals that don't have independence, right? And cannot have a
Yes.
voice,
We're
right?
we're their advocates, and I'm
Yes.
100% in agreement with you
But what it
about.
takes, though, in reverse, what takes is we feel sometimes guilty. Then we feel, okay, I cannot take a break. Or am I painting too much? It's like,
Yes.
um, and sometimes I feel bad because I have to do other things and I don't have as much time to paint, for example. And I feel guilty because then my son is going to arrive and I have to do this and this thing. And then I feel bad because I didn't paint, you know? So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
always this juggling that we have
I
to do.
always feel constantly rushed because I have so much to squeeze in a short amount of time in a small window, and just constantly feel rushed. And a lot of it's myself putting the pressure on me. I
Yeah.
understand that. But I feel rushed quite a lot.
Yeah, I think most people know in my social media that I have a special needs son. Some people follow my son for a long time because they follow me for a long time and they basically saw him growing up. Um, but today I don't like to put as much because, again, he's not able to tell me if he wants that or not, right?
Right. Right.
So I keep it kind of like, not as much.
Hmm.
But I always try to say to people sometimes in my stories, like, I'm here on a patio, waiting my son in the car in the therapy. This is my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every week for how many days a week, and I'm
Yeah.
here. But I'm here, but I'm doodling, I'm reading, I'm listening a podcast, trying to be
Yeah.
creative and using my time instead of like, oh, gee,
Right.
I'm here and I'm losing time that I could be painting. Well, I'm not painting, but I'm
Yeah.
learning. I'm like, reading something, doodling on my iPad, and things like
Yeah.
that. Do you feel like when you teach classes, that helped me a lot in the time that I used to teach classes,
Hmm.
talking to creatives, teaching them and seeing like today we have Facebook groups, right? To see what the class is doing and to see what they're creating with what you're teaching. Does that gives you like energy back and helps you out?
Teaching is a lot of hard work. I do like to do it, and mainly because it means I get to travel and
Ah,
get out
yes.
into the
Yeah,
world.
the physical class.
Um,
Yes.
yes, um, but it is a lot of work.
Yes.
It's a lot of hand holding, um, and when you're already taking care of someone at home
Yeah.
all the time, taking care of other people in the form of teaching can be tiring. I know when I'm done, when a class is
Exhausted,
finished,
right? Yeah.
I'm exhausted. Yeah, and plus I don't talk that much, so all of a sudden, for
You
five
have to
days
talk a
straight
lot. Yeah.
at a retreat, I've been talking, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh my god, So
Yeah.
it
It's
is a
true.
lot of work. I do
When I
like
use
it. I do love it, but it's a lot of work.
well, I used to teach Photoshop for artists that wanted to do artistic digital work. And I remember at that time doing a lot of Facebook lives and YouTube lives. And people have no idea how that is exhausting.
Yeah, yeah,
Not because you have to prepare things and then you are there talking for an hour. At the end of
yeah,
it, I was like, oh, I'm so exhausted. I don't want to do that. I just want to sit on my sofa and veggie out. But
yeah.
then you can't
I think
because you have kids.
yes, yeah. There's no clocking out. I think what people don't realize is that, especially I mean, we're talking pre-pandemic when there was a lot of classes that you could actually go to physically and take, and that class was planned almost a year in advance, and I don't think people know that. There's
No,
so much work that goes
so
into,
much.
like what am I going to need to bring for class? Just so much to think about.
Yeah. And you also, I'm here looking at your Instagram. You do this kind of little booklets, right? There is
Like
that
the
art?
journaling and
Yeah. So is that for journaling and art journal? Is that what you do?
hmm
So
hmm
do you sell these
uh,
books as well?
yeah. So you're talking about the one, that little itty bitty one?
Yeah. The
Yeah.
cover is kind of a crochet with fabric.
Yes, yes, yes. I do. I did sell that. Someone messaged me immediately and was like, "Are you going to sell that?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I sold it to her.
Uh-huh. So do you like to do books, art journal books? I
hmm
used to love to do
hmm
that. I still
Yeah, I
do. I
do.
just don't
I
have
like to
time.
make them. Yes, I love to make them. The cover is my favorite part to
Yes.
make because that involves, of course, getting out my fabrics and my textures. And I actually I just finished a commissioned art journal, which I've never had anyone have me do that before. And I really loved it because I could really, really personalize it. The mother gave me all these details about her daughter, and then I went on her Instagram and grabbed some photos and then printed them out on my little mini printer and put those in the journal.
Oh.
And
Are you
yeah,
gonna
I
show
really
that one?
enjoyed that.
Are you gonna show that one on Instagram?
Um, I haven't yet, just because I started following the girl that the book is for, and I didn't know if I just didn't want her to see it, but I suppose I could post it and just
When she receives it.
be,
Yeah.
it's a Christmas present.
Ah, yeah. So you have to probably
Yeah,
wait her to receive it.
yeah, yeah.
And also I like that you posted one about thrift store dresses and clothing. Um,
Yes, yes. I
and
used to do a YouTube thing, and it is on my YouTube. They're still there. I called it Thrifty Thursdays, I think I called it. And I would just model a complete outfit that I had gotten from the thrift store and just talk about it and stuff like that. And that was pretty fun. But I just felt like people don't really leave comments anymore, so I wasn't
no,
really sure, like, is anyone even watching this?
no.
And so this is free, precious time that I'm using to do this, and I wasn't sure anyone was really watching it, so I didn't do it. And then when I stopped
Yeah.
doing it, everyone's like,
It
how come you don't
seems
do it anymore?
it seems that people now are they like your
Yeah.
posts and everything, but people are kind of they don't want to waste their time. They prefer go past to another post instead of
Yes,
leaving a
yes,
comment.
yeah.
I have to say I'm getting better at it. Before I I kind of like lurk, you know.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
sometimes I think also the person can think, I used to think that. I think the person thinks, oh, they're not going to read my comment or whatever.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
uh,
I look at all my comments and I try to respond to all my comments. Unless, like, for Tucker's birthday, he literally had almost 400 birthday wishes, and there's just no way I can respond to all that. So, everyone got a like, and um,
yeah, and
with
I saw the
smaller,
picture here with his teddy bears. And
yeah,
and you had a lot of comments on that one on Instagram. He looks so
yeah,
happy and
yeah.
comfy as well.
So, yeah, so when posts are smaller and a little bit more intimate, I try to respond as best I can back to everybody. And
Does he have any device that he can speak or no? He doesn't
no,
use no. Okay.
no.
But he understands you.
He does. I like to describe Tucker as just like a little baby. So, you have your baby, and your baby can't talk to you, but you know that either
Mm-hmm.
the baby's not feeling well, or the baby's hungry,
Mm-hmm.
or the baby
Yep.
needs a new diaper, whatever. You instinctually learn
Yeah.
how to read your baby, and so
Yeah.
that's how it is with Tucker.
Yeah. My son is not really good at, and that is something that scares me. We work a lot with that. He's getting better. He didn't know how to say he had a pain or something. So I would
Hmm.
see he's not feeling well. You know when your child is
Right.
not feeling well,
Yeah.
and when I know he's not as active as he is, I know something's going on, right?
Right. Yeah.
But he's getting better. I think
Yeah.
people don't realize things that are very. I think parents don't even notice. For us, it's like a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Today, when he understands when I give him a simple command, to me, I make a party dance, because it's like,
Yeah.
there was a time when he didn't even recognize his name.
Yeah.
So to me, this is a huge deal, and for many parents, it's like, well, nothing. Why are you
Well,
celebrating?
the thing about Tucker that's funny is that a neurologist will read his reports and tell us all the horrible, news about, his level of cognitive
Oh
understanding and
yeah,
all that stuff.
I hate these
And I,
reports.
yeah, I just tell him I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. But anyway, but there are so many times when I have like a really snarky, dark sense of humor, and so I just might say something just out loud, like maybe I'm watching a show and I might have one of my little, witty replies about something that's going on, and then he'll start laughing, and so I'm like, he has to get it that was a
For
joke,
sure.
because it was like spot on that he started laughing right afterwards. So
Yeah.
I have to think he understands more than he's really capable of
Oh yeah, my son
expressing.
as well. My son
Yeah.
can research everything on the computer.
Yeah.
Okay, more than me. So he understands everything, but he cannot express himself.
Right.
It's too much here, too much going on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think that something that is funny was that when my son was, I think people think like they behave in a way he doesn't understand a lot, right? So it's a
Right.
classic like judging the way a person is. For example, when he got lost, the police found him, and was a policewoman, and she was with him on the front of my house, and I told her, did you ask him? He ran with his iPad, and I said, did you ask him who his parents' name and his address, because he knows everything. We teach him since forever for security reasons. And she said, oh no, he was playing with Dora on the iPad, so I thought he would not understand me.
Oh, so she just makes assumptions.
Right. And it's like, no, he's playing with Dora. He seems like he's not knowing what's going on, but he knows everything that's going on.
Right. Well, I mean,
And
let's be honest. People are very afraid of people with disabilities. It's
yeah,
different. It's uncomfortable. There's
they don't
always
know
an
how to deal
awkwardness.
with, yeah.
Right. They're always staring at us, which I can't stand. And even before Tucker's injury, I have to say I was that person too, because I'd never been exposed to
But many
any
times,
sort of disability.
I try, my psychologist said to me was like, you don't know, because sometimes I look at people when I saw one time I went to Panera Bread and I saw someone with not autistic, but I don't know if it was autistic, it looked like, but a person with special needs, but was more adult than my son. And I was looking, thinking, it was so nice. The first time I saw a parent here like me, and their child was doing some sounds and noise, and I was looking, thinking, wow, I'm so glad you guys are here. Probably they think I'm
Right.
like everyone else, just judging them. But I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
sometimes feel the urge to talk to people, to say, hey, I was not looking like my son. But
I always try to say something to the child, like, "Hey, buddy, you look like you're having a good time," or just something to say, "I see you, I acknowledge you,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
respect you as a person."
Yeah, I feel that this happened in Washington. People in Washington are so closed up, and I didn't feel like I could reach them and say, hey, nice, my son here also,
Yeah.
But one time it happened in Florida when I was here on vacation. Before we were thinking to come here to live, we had a vacation condo here. And I was at Target and I saw this woman with 2 teenage sons, both in the spectrum. And one seemed more, lower in the spectrum. And he was with a DVD in his hands. And she was, ahead of me of paying stuff. And and I was looking, and I pushed the conversation because I think here people are more outgoing. So I said, oh, it's funny that he had a DVD. My son also, every time he comes at Target, he loves Target, he has to buy a DVD. And then I said, oh, my son is autistic as well. And then I felt like her relaxing. Like, I don't have to explain to you that he's a 20-year-old man buying a child's DVD, you know?
Yeah.
Which is sad.
Yeah.
You know, that she felt tense, and then suddenly she kind of like, and then we talked, and we talked about schools, and she gave me some names. I felt I was thinking to come here. It was very nice. At the end, it was very nice.
So it was probably really nice for her too.
Yeah. Yeah.
The cutest thing happened to me in Trader Joe's. A autistic young man came up to me and started touching my hair.
My son sometimes does that, was not good.
And of course, the mother and his sister were mortified,
freaking out. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that they were just so worried that I was going to be
freaking out,
this horrible person about it, and I was just like, he can touch my hair, I don't care. And I was like, hey, buddy, you like my hair? And, I tried to really have a conversation with him about it. And you could just tell that the mom and the daughter were just so relieved. And because it really could have been, someone else who was like, oh my God, don't touch me. Get away. Who are you? Mm-hmm. And I just loved it. I just thought it was so sweet, and made my day that he felt that he knew that I was a special person, that he could he could do that too.
Yeah, my son, he likes to touch faces, but it's funny, he just touch of people he really likes.
Yeah.
What he has to learn is he has to ask before touching, not just put the hand out there, you know?
Yeah.
So, Kecia, what do you think as a last thing for us here is, if there are people listening, mothers like us, parents that, in this situation, and they want to start to create things, and they want to start, what is your advice, how this would be helpful for them?
I would suggest starting slow. Pick one thing, one thing that's manageable, one thing that's not going to involve tons and tons of supplies that you don't have the energy or the finances to get into. My greatest source for myself, as far as resources, YouTube. So I teach myself almost everything I want to learn, and I go on YouTube and look. So if someone says, oh, I really want to learn how to art journal, go on YouTube and start looking at videos. So I've been doing that with all the weaving. And by the way, do you want to see the weaving I'm working on?
Go ahead.
So I'm doing a Christmas themed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's so nice to see clothes, because I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so much better close up like this. It's amazing.
So any question that I have, though, I mean, I did take a class. I did take a Zoom class. But the way that my brain works is like, I have to do it at least 50,000 times before I remember it. So
how long
stitches.
How long does it take to do a piece like that?
We did the Zoom class in 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
This piece, my sister was just visiting, and we worked on it and got it. I made sure she got hers done before she left. So we probably worked on it every evening for 3 days at a clip of probably 4 hours each time.
Wow.
So it's a lot of work. But my point is that anytime I don't remember how to do a certain stitch that I was taught, I just go right to YouTube and start watching videos so that I can remember it. So I would say YouTube is a great source of learning anything, and it doesn't cost you any money.
Yes. And I also would say that, don't feel guilty for creating. Don't feel guilty for having your time creating.
Yeah.
Right? Don't forget.
We need to carve out some me time, I think they call it.
Yes.
Self-care. That's what I've learned, is
Yes.
that it's self-care that we're
It's
giving
important,
ourselves.
even it's for
Yeah.
art, but also self-care in terms of your personal stuff. I don't know, even if it's to go to the hairdresser. I like to do my nails. So
Yeah.
it's, I went to do my nails this morning. I told her, you know, I look forward to this moment. It's like my me time.
It's
And
quiet
she's
too.
like, glad. Because also it's a portion that I have to talk with a human being
Yeah, yeah.
up close,
Yeah.
because we don't have that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, my sister being here for 4 days, I was just like, she
Good,
probably was
right?
like, "Oh my God, shut up!" I just couldn't stop talking to her. So,
Yeah,
but
but
it's been so
it
long since
feels
I really,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Besides
feels
my
nice.
husband and my son, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
really
I don't
nice
think like,
to talk.
oh, I could be doing this on my website. No, I'm like, I need this to feel good about myself. So I
Yeah,
like to do it. I
yeah,
really get
yeah.
happy.
It's okay to put ourselves first sometimes.
Absolutely.
Women, not even just mothers of special needs children, women in general suffer all these same things,
100%.
guilt, and yeah, don't put themselves first, and sometimes it's okay
Yeah.
to do that.
So let us know what classes you have going on right now on your website.
Well, one of the classes is on how to make a doll. I call it my sunshine doll.
So people
And
can sign up anytime.
yes,
Okay.
it's a ongoing
Ongoing.
self-paced
Okay.
class.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it comes with a kit with the first face on the doll's face, the sunshine
Mm-hmm.
doll. And you don't know how to sew. I mean, you do need a sewing machine, but it's not a pattern. I
A
walk you through
requirement. Yeah.
everything. Yeah, I walk you through everything step by step on how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like when my sister and I were watching some YouTube videos, I was getting really frustrated because I felt like, oh my God, this person just cannot articulate what needs to be said. They're spending too much time talking about other things. I feel like I am very good at articulating what it is you need to know to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is so important to me. I get
That's
so
true. Not
frustrated.
everybody knows how to
Yes.
teach.
Yes. That's right. Not everybody's
Just
a good
because they
teacher.
are offering a class doesn't mean that they know how to teach.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. So
So you have the doll and you have the clay class.
the free
Class, and then the other class is on Jean Oliver Network.
on Jean Oliver's site. Yeah, and I'll
Okay.
get all that information over to you so that you
I'm
have
gonna
it.
check that out. I never heard about this clay. And I love pottery, but this thing of using oven and these things just,
So this would not be like a pottery
yeah.
clay. It's basically just you mix two pieces of the certain clay together to form one piece,
Yeah.
and then you use it to connect things together. And by the time it dries really, really hard. And then whatever two pieces you brought together are not going to come apart. So
Wow.
it's just a more stable approach instead of like using like a hot glue gun and stuff like that. This is just a really stable product to be using for those things. So
All right. And Kecia, thank you so much. It was such a good conversation. Thanks for being open to talk about this and,
absolutely.
share here together with me a little bit of the things that go on behind the scenes in our lives with our special kids. It's always special for me when I find other moms out there creating, and sometimes you feel like, am I alone feeling this? Am I the only one feeling guilty? Am I the only one feeling this? And it's nice to talk to someone and have that same perspectives and learn from each other. So I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I mean, it's one thing I learned through this whole journey of especially recently, is we aren't alone. We feel alone, but we aren't alone.
Yeah,
We
that's
have
true.
a lot more support. Maybe it's not physically in-house, but there is more
Yeah.
hope and understanding for us than we know.
Yeah, and also we have to be willing to reach people, right? like a reach to
Yes.
you. And if the person say, sometimes I invite people and they don't respond me, they don't, and that's fine. That means that person, doesn't want to talk, doesn't want to, and that's fine. Then we try another person.
Yeah.
That's how you should do things. We should not take things personal. Everybody has their history and their way of doing things, and sometimes they feel afraid, or sometimes they're not prepared. And there is a time for everything, but we also should not be afraid to reach people. And if you feel that you're feeling alone or things like that, and also reaching for help when it's necessary. For me, for example, it's very important to talk with someone neutral, like a psychologist.
Yes. Oh, yes.
It's very important to talk with someone neutral that is not a family member, that is not a friend. So it gives me other perspectives to think about.
Oh my gosh, for sure.
And she sees things that I was like, I didn't think it that way.
Yeah.
So it's good. So we have to be more kind with ourselves. I think our conversation, I hope people take that we have to be kind with ourselves and with our body, with our brain,
Yeah.
And
I was very, very unkind to myself when I went through that recent bout of anxiety and depression. And I realized that was part of the whole thing. But I really was not very kind to myself. And that's not like me because, I just didn't even recognize who that person was. That's how difficult things got. But you're absolutely right.
It's a journey. It's a journey. It's not easy. Sometimes I go through these moments, and my psychologist definitely talk to me sometimes. Some days it's like, well, you're not being kind to you today, So sometimes I have to step back and say, okay, what I'm doing,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's a journey. So if you are listening to this, you are not alone. You have many mothers like us. And we all have to reach out. And again, I think we show again, and this is the main thing of the podcast, is that art helps. Art is here to fill your heart with joy, fill your brain with things to do, and keep you busy. And I think every time you're thinking about what project you're going to do, what you're creating, you are not thinking bad about yourself or about the people around you. And that's what is important about art. Right? Something that I learned going to see Frida Kahlo exhibition is that despite her pain, despite being bad, she kept painting, because I believe she kept painting because when she painted, she didn't think about her body suffering. And that is the power that art...
powerful woman. Yeah.
And that's the power, right? That's the power that art have to us, no matter what kind of art you do. If it's fabric, weaving, mixed media, collage, painting, it doesn't matter. What matters is you are doing something for your own well-being, right? And also, if you're appreciating art, if you have art in your house, if you have a piece like that in your house, like you just showed us, that brings you happiness in your house. When you look at it, it brings you happiness. So I think if for nothing else, you can take that message today with our conversation, because, we are trying to see that we have our issues, but we keep creating.
That's right, exactly.
Thank you so much, Kecia, for coming to the podcast.
You're so welcome.
I so appreciate it, and you were so open to it. I so appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I appreciate you listening to the podcast all the way here to the end. And I would like to thank you so much. And to help us spread the word about the podcast, you can share on Instagram and tag me. I would love to share as well. And take a screenshot and tell me what you're doing while you're listening to the podcast. Or leave us a review on Apple Podcast. We really appreciate if you could do that. It really helps spread the word about the podcast. I will talk to you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Check episode notes at 2 worldart.com/blog. Connect with Jana on Instagram at Jana_2worlds. And make sure to receive our artful insights by signing up at bit.ly/join2worldsart.